Senator Ted Cruz has made it his mission to put himself front and center on just about every issue, with some notable exceptions. He couldn't be bothered about the many Texans who were fighting to survive during a winter storm without power and water. He went to Cancun instead on vacay. And he apparently had very little interest in the U.S. Marine from Texas who was detained by the Russians for nearly 3 years. The father of Trevor Reed, who was recently returned to the U.S., gave an interview to the Dallas Morning News where he praised all the lawmakers, both Republicans and Democrats, who helped bring his son home. But Tex Teddy was singled out for his lack of support. Not holding back, Joey Reed said Cruz didn't do anything. He's an embarrassment to the state of Texas. Let me just say that. I don't care what or who runs against him. I will work for their campaign to defeat that son of a... You get the idea.
The father of a Marine who was captured in Russia wants to make sure that Ted Cruz gets absolutely no credit for aiding in his son's release. I'm Yasmin Khan with Rebel HQ, and after being held captive in Russia since 2019, U.S. Marine Trevor Reed was finally released last month. Now, upon his return to Texas, his father, Joey, thanked politicians from both sides of the aisle who helped get Trevor home. Notably unthanked was Texas Senator Ted Cruz. So here's the story. Trevor was captured and jailed in Russia on charges of drunken misconduct, including assaulting a police officer. The Reeds maintained that these accusations were false and that they were fabricated by Russia with the intent of using Reed as a bargaining chip with the US. Now, Joey Reed, Trevor's father, reached out to several politicians, including both of his senators, John Cornyn and Ted Cruz, to help get his son back. Cornyn did what he could. Ted Cruz did not. Now, according to Joey, he was told that Cruz's involvement in Trevor's release would actually do more harm than good, and that it would be better overall if Cruz just wasn't involved. The reason given for this was that Cruz was already such a vocal opponent of Russia's natural gas pipeline that Russia already didn't like him and wouldn't want to give him anything he asked for, such as the release of a political prisoner. Now, for the record, Senator Cornyn also opposed the pipeline.
So, Paula, the State Department obviously played a very important role in securing Trevor's release, and you just had a virtual meeting with Secretary of State Antony Blinken. What can you tell us about the meeting?
He just wanted to congratulate us and tell us that, it was mostly because of mine and Joey's efforts to bring Trevor home. Although, like I said, we know that isn't true. We know that the government's been working on it for a while. They worked hard, and we know that Governor Richardson had a play in that. There's so many people that worked on it besides just Joey and I, so we appreciated his call, and we were thankful that he let us know that he's working on bringing others home still. So
they obviously did some important work, but do not discount how hard you guys worked, and Jonathan Franks too, to get the story front and center so it couldn't be ignored.
In a statement, Cruz said, "I would have eagerly taken a public role loudly calling for Trevor's release, but I believed that the best way for me to help was to vigorously press the administration behind the scenes and work through the State Department to bring Trevor home as soon as possible." So Trevor's family can rest assured that Ted Cruz was in fact doing stuff behind the scenes, whatever that stuff was. That can't really be proven one way or another though, and even if that was the case, Trevor's family was not kept in the loop. Joey told the Dallas Morning News, "He didn't do anything. He's an embarrassment to the state of Texas, let me just say that. I don't care what or who runs against him. I will work for their campaign to defeat that son of a bitch." Once Trevor was released, Cruz called Joey to congratulate him on getting his son back, and Joey basically told him, "Yeah, no thanks to you." Trevor asked Cruz, "Where have you been for the last 2.5 years?" He added, "We are not appreciative." And when Cruz asked if there was anything he could do going forward, Joey said, "We needed your help 2.5 years ago, not now." Now, Ted Cruz always has an excuse and a finger to point at anyone to explain his own failings as a public servant. He once blamed his own team for giving him the wrong information, which led to him voting against something that he said that he would support. He blamed his kids when he abandoned Texas during a crisis, only to return home in time to take credit for the work that was done in his stead by, of all pairs, Beto O'Rourke and AOC. And now he's blaming his inaction on the release of a political prisoner on his hardline stance against Russia and Putin, suggesting that he was so prominent a figure in foreign policy that his mere involvement in Trevor's release would have compromised the entire operation. Now, none of the above would be quite as bad if Cruz wasn't always trying to take credit for things he didn't do. Also, when politicians speak in hypotheticals, as Cruz tends to do, hypotheticals, by the way, that aren't backed up by any kind of data or evidence, they're incredibly difficult to disprove, especially when you're talking to your own base of supporters. When Cruz fled to Mexico during the polar vortex, the prevailing narrative from his defenders was, well, what was he going to do anyway? There was nothing he could have done even if he stayed. For starters, he could have just done what Beto and AOC did. Beto hit the ground running, organizing donation drives for victims, delivering water to people who were trapped in their homes, and speaking out against the statewide failures that led to the crisis in the first place. AOC, a congresswoman from an entirely different state, spoke out about the importance of renewable energy sources while raising $5 million in relief funds for Texans within a span of just a few days. Instead, Ted Cruz returned home from Mexico after the worst of the vortex was over and after he'd gone viral on social media for fleeing his state in a crisis. He claimed that he immediately regretted his decision to leave and he was doing it to be a good father and whatever else he said. In the end, it was just more of the same, more words that don't do anything when it comes to making up for actual action. Now, there's a moment that's always kind of stuck with me from the debate stage, and it sort of epitomizes what I and probably a lot of other people don't like about Ted Cruz. It was during the 2018 Senate race between Beto and Ted. The race was closer than Ted Cruz wanted it to be, but there was a question asked of the candidates about what they intended to do about gun violence in the state of Texas and across the nation if they were to be elected to the Senate. Beto had a well-thought-out answer that he delivered, part of which included a bit about how thoughts and prayers aren't enough in the fight against literally anything in the real world. Ted Cruz's rebuttal was that he likes thoughts and prayers. People need to be praying more. There's nothing wrong with thoughts and prayers. He didn't address anything related to the topic, but he got an applause for that response. For me, all I heard was Ted Cruz's commitment to do absolutely nothing when his constituents would depend on him to act. And all I saw was his reluctance to take any accountability for the consequences his inaction would inevitably reap. He was, however, more than willing to bask in the glow of his own well-marketed mediocrity.